The supervisors of elections, we have them on video, certain ones wearing literally Biden-Harris face masks in polling locations, which is totally illegal.
Our poll watchers brought out a pair of binoculars. They were shut down on the binoculars, but then they were told, well, okay, you can use the binoculars.
Mysteriously at 4 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, about 120,000 ballots appeared. Oh, here come these ballots. A number of these are often challenged by the Democrat representative or the Republican representative. We never got a chance to look at a single one of them.
He told them they can't come any closer. He said the reason was because of they can't interfere with the process, and then something about COVID. Well, we all know at the polls, you have to stay 6 feet apart.
These people, the elite, they don't care about the people.
What is really happening? Folks, if you are worried, if you are scared, if you are angry, if you are depressed, if you're frustrated, if you just don't know what to make of what's going on with this election, you need to take a chill pill, step back, take a deep breath, get some perspective. It is going to be okay, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So let's get started.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be
First of all, before we get any further, if you would please like, share, and subscribe. My last video, we got about 50,000 views so far on Facebook and about 3 on YouTube. No, it's a little more than that. So we obviously need some help on YouTube. But if you'd please like, share, subscribe, hit the notifications bell. It really, really helps us. We're just trying to get the word out, y'all. That video talked about the role of the FBI and the CIA in suppressing and working with big tech in suppressing that Joe Biden, Hunter Biden laptop story. And you know what? If that had not happened the way it had, we probably wouldn't be having the conversation we're going to have tonight, because that story all by itself should have just knocked Mr. Biden clear out of the water. But this is November 4th. It's the day after the election. By the time you see this, it's going to be later than it is right now, and probably another 50 stories have hit the wire, but that's not the point. Because what we're going to talk about tonight is the answer. It's the solution. So don't let that worry you. But I do want to kind of paint a picture of what's going on right now. The clips that I played in the beginning came from about a 14-minute press conference that took place at 4:30 Eastern in Philadelphia, where the land of corruption. And Eric Trump, Rudy Giuliani, Pam Bondi, and then a gentleman that was actually working as a poll worker go on to describe all the grievous offenses of the Philadelphia machine there that would not let poll workers observe what's going on, just doing all kind of crazy things with ballots. I have posted that entire press conference on my Facebook page, Ohio for Freedom, and also on YouTube, Ohio for Freedom. You can watch it. I encourage you to. This is not a little deal. This is not a onesie-twosie, little slip up here, a little slip up there. This is orchestrated, evil, intentional playing with our election, and so that's there. That's a resource that you can check out. I also spent some time today, was able to check out Jay Sekulow with his 1-hour program that happens every day at noon, and they had at least 4 callers that called in that had been offered a Sharpie while they're standing in line to vote, and these people are smart, they're savvy, they know that you can't use a Sharpie and then hand it to a machine and the machine read it properly. And I'm going to play you a clip. I'm not going to play all 4, but I'm going to play a clip, but this was typical, where someone tried to get the voter to take a Sharpie and tried to take the pen that the voter brought in with them, the pen that belongs to them, tried to take it away. Check it out.
We're putting together a group here. Tell us what happened.
Okay, my nephew sent me a video of a woman in the line had posted. Yeah, so what happened in the video is this young woman is saying that she saw that they were handing Sharpies to people, and that she was already hearing that the machines were not reading the Sharpie ballots. And she said she had always voted with a pen, so she had a pen ready. Mm-hmm. And they tried to force her to take the Sharpie. They tried to take the pen away from her, and she took the Sharpie and
even though the Sharpie can't be read by the machine. Do you see the links they're going to?
Folks, this is not a onesie-twosie. I mean, this has happened all over the country, so it's obvious, it's intentional, it's orchestrated, and it's evil. The person trying to hand somebody a Sharpie and steal their pen from them, they know what they're trying to do. They are trying to steal the vote. We're going to play one more clip, and then we're going to look at something else.
Yeah, hi, Jordan. Thank you for taking my call. So I voted early about 2 weeks ago, and I checked my vote a few days after the vote to confirm because I had a feeling something like this would happen. And it showed the confirmation of my vote the day I voted, and everything was 100%. Lo and behold, I went on and checked my status this morning after the election, and my vote is gone. It shows the last vote that I made was in 2016. I've been talking to others on Facebook, and my friends in my community, all reporting the same thing, missing votes across our county.
Once again, this isn't onesie-twosie. This stuff is happening all over the place, folks. Look, and we are supposed to believe what the media is reporting to us, the same media that told us about Russiagate for 3 years, the same media that pumped up the Ukraine fake impeachment, the same media that 2 days ago was saying that Joe Biden was ahead by 10 points in the entire universe, the entire galaxy. I'm going to play one more clip.
Elgin from Arizona is calling in line 3. He's one of those voters. Elgin, tell us exactly what happened.
So there's a couple of things that happened. I went in on October 22nd to vote early. They put my info in the computer, and my info came up, my address, everything was good. I proved that I lived there, proved who I was. They printed my ballot. Then they hand me a Sharpie, which I thought was kind of weird because I've been voting for almost 40 years now. And I've never seen a Sharpie. I always have that other type of pen. So I went ahead and did it, but I noticed it was soaking through to the other side of the ballot. And I thought, well, if that goes through a machine to be read, there's going to be a problem possibly with that. So then I just followed through. A few days later, I went online to check my status of my ballot, and I put in my info, and it said that I wasn't registered. I've always been registered. I've never not voted. I've always been registered. So there's two funky things right there. Like, I've kind of just disappeared from the system.
So here's a guy that was handed a Sharpie, but a Sharpie with an interesting little twist. It must have been a Sharpie that in disguise was a dry erase marker, because by the time he gets home and checks it 2 days later, he's not even in the system. He's not even registered, folks. We got some stuff going on, and it's going to be challenged, and it's going to be challenged effectively, but we'll talk about that. But I want to just real quick take a look around at what's going on in the world of media, so I decided to go to the biggest communist rag in the country right now online, and that is the Sludge Report. So let's just take a couple seconds and look at what they were up to today. Just a random walk down media corruption lane. I am on the sludgereport.com. Oh, Biden gets most votes in American history. Do they look like they're for Biden? I want to go over to this story. Twitter flags. News anchors call out Donald for prematurely declaring victory. You go to the story, and news anchors forcefully call out Trump for prematurely declaring victory, and you can read all about it. The only problem is Sludge's headline said Twitter flags. This article does not have the word Twitter in it at all. We'll leave that alone. And then, speaking of Twitter, look at this. Kathy Griffin retweets. How do you retweet? Oh, you use Twitter, and she retweets her decapitated head. But at least Twitter isn't biased or anything. There's two things in that little clip that I want to talk about. First of all, the headline that we did click on. First of all, the Sludge Report used to actually be a pretty valuable site. It's just gone so off the rails, but we don't have time to get into that. But it is a propaganda rag now. But that story that we first clicked on, Twitter bans and mainstream media flags, and then you read the story, it never even mentions Twitter. Not once. But it made a good headline. But hey, accuracy. Come on, accuracy. That's kind of overblown. And then it's okay for Kathy Griffin to show the depiction of a decapitated Trump head, and that's okay. But then getting back to the story, I know I'm bouncing all over the place. I'm trying to move quick, folks. I want to get this out. But the story that crying and bemoaning that Trump declared victory, and that's just awful. That's just terrible. But nobody ever said anything about the Biden camp doing exactly the same thing.
For that Biden campaign attorney as well.
Well, let's play with this is the lawyer for the Biden campaign.
As far as our own planning, we're winning the election. We've won the election. And we're going to defend that election. So we don't have to do anything but protect the rights of voters and to stand up for the democratic process.
Very laudable statement. You didn't win the election. The election is not over.
No
This is exactly. This is the Attorney General of Pennsylvania, same kind of thing. If all the votes are counted, Trump loses and Biden.
So the president talks as though he has won, which he has, and he's excoriated in the press. His tweets are taken down. I'm trying to show on the screen screenshots of the president's tweets being taken down, being, filtered, whatever you want to call it. And yet when the Biden campaign talks that way, it's perfectly fine. Well, I just want to remind everybody, and this is from a reliable source because this is coming from Facebook. And Facebook right now says there's no projected winner yet. So there's no projected winner yet. This deal is not over. And I want to talk about what the solution is, where the silver lining is. And I'm going to change direction here just a little bit because I'm going to go and read a couple of sentences from Mario Murillo's blog, and then I'm going to tell this audience a story that I have told maybe a handful of people in my life. Stick around. Just going to read a little bit of what Mario Murillo posted on his blog Wednesday, November 4th. The title, "Do Not Fear, Hold On, God Has a Surprise for All of Us." Let's read this paragraph here. On Election Day morning, the Holy Spirit spoke to me and said, "Something you are not expecting is going to happen tonight, but do not fear, because God has a surprise for all of you." Then I watched as Fox News prematurely announced that Biden had won Arizona. It felt like sabotage. Then Georgia and Pennsylvania stopped counting votes. It threw everything into confusion. That confusion is right now reverberating across America. Many of God's people are dismayed. Then I remembered the chaos God had warned me was coming in November, and I realized this was it. Final thing I'm going to read. I too was shaken till I remembered the promise. But do not fear, because God has a surprise for all of you. You say, Everett, do you believe that? Yeah, I do. Listen, are you a Christian? Because just in case you are, in case you forgot, if you're a Christian, you actually believe that God raised Jesus Christ from the dead. Ladies and gentlemen, if God can raise Jesus from the dead, he can certainly show somebody something that's about to happen. I said I would tell a story. I'm going to tell a story. You can tell from my hair color that this ain't my first rodeo. I've been here for a little while. I didn't graduate from high school last year, okay? When I was a young man in the 80s, I had a dream. And in my dream, I was sitting in the back seat of a limousine. To my right was like a bodyguard or something like that. He wasn't my bodyguard. And the big kahuna for whom that limousine was reserved was standing outside the car talking to some important people. This important individual eventually got in the car and was sitting in the passenger side of the front seat. And as he got in the car, he threw a cigarette out the window. And the thing that was unusual about that is that this guy was the world's #1 renowned TV evangelist, the #1 charismatic TV evangelist at that time. All right. And, smoking a cigarette is not going to send anybody to hell, but it's not something that a #1 TV evangelist does. It just doesn't happen. And in my youthful innocence, I was just like stunned. And I said, brother, and I'm not going to say his name. I said, "Are you smoking?" I mean, I just couldn't believe it. And this gentleman looked at me and never said a word. But his expression said to me, "Kid, you got a lot to learn." And that was the dream. I woke up the next morning, didn't know what to do with it, didn't know what to think about it. I did tell a ministry friend of mine about it. And I was just more or less like dismissing it, like, there can't be anything to this. He called me the next day, and he said, I prayed about that and thought about that. And he said, I think I need to tell you that I wouldn't be so quick to dismiss that dream. Do you know that within 30 days, that #1 televangelist in the world went through the biggest scandal, maybe of them all, and has never recovered? And I say that to say this. I know that God, every once in a while, can allow little bitty nobodies like you and like me to get a glimpse into what he is about to do. So when I read Mario Murillo's blog, it didn't surprise me. It wasn't really anything that I didn't already believe. It happened to him in a little different way. For me, it's just, I guess I'll just say that it's a knowing. But I learned recently that Mario Murillo, years ago, was on TBN, and he felt big in here that within 30 days, there were 3 ministries that were going to be judged. And he didn't want to deal with it. And when you hear him tell the story, he didn't want to deal with it, didn't want to think about it, didn't want to know it. And Paul Crouch turned to him and said, "Mario, is God dealing with you about something?" And so that put him on the spot, and he had to blurt out on national Christian TV, "Well, within 30 days, I believe God is showing me that there's 3 major ministries that are going to be judged." And you know what, folks? It happened. So sometimes people have a track record. A few weeks back, I posted a video. And in that video, I said that I had seen something that I couldn't unsee, and that was that it was within our grasp as a nation to repeal Roe versus Wade. And I laid out some things that would have to happen, but things that could happen. And in that video, I mentioned that Ruth Bader Ginsburg, although she appeared to have 9 lives, wouldn't be here forever. And it really caught my attention. And by the way, that video, I just had to do it. I couldn't do anything else that day until I did that video. And so, yeah, it caught my attention when 2 days later, Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. And I remember posting that Donald Trump needed to nominate someone to replace her immediately. And you know what he did? And at the time, many people thought, "Oh, that could never happen. That'll never happen." You know what? Amy Coney Barrett is sitting on the Supreme Court right now. So I'm sorry, I see the hand of God. But that's just something it's a little glimpse that I saw by accident. What has God been showing you? That's the whole point. What has he been showing you? Earlier today, somebody sent me a message. I can't remember if it was Messenger or a text message, but they were talking about a book that was written by a young man named Jeremiah Johnson. And the name of the book was Trump and the Future of America. And in chapter 9 of that book, I'm not going to read the whole text, that would take too long, but there's a chapter entitled, "Will Donald Trump Win the 2020 Election?" And in that chapter, he tells the story of a dream that he had. This is Jeremiah Johnson. And he says that in his dream, he saw President Trump running the Boston Marathon. And people were mocking, laughing, spitting at him, just giving him grief. And he got within 100 yards of the finish line, and then he fell. He fell, and then 2 old ladies walked out. One was so frail she was using a cane, and somehow a supernatural rush of wind empowered them. They were able to lift him up and get him over the finish line. I guess what I'm saying to you, I'm asking you really is, are you willing to be one of those old ladies? Because as Jeremiah understood this in his dream, that represented baby boomers that were prayer warriors. And so at the end of that text message, I did want to read this. It says, "There's an enormous battle raging right now in the spiritual realm. The darkness is trying to prevent itself from being exposed. We're calling saints, intercessors, and prayer warriors to lift up the supernatural wind and help the president, who is called for such a time as this, to cross the finish line." I don't want to be talking about this on Facebook. I want to live my quiet, anonymous life like everybody else, but these aren't those kind of times right now. And so, I kind of made a list, and I wrote it in Sharpie in honor of the poll workers of the United States of America. And I just wrote a list of some different groups of people that do not want to be exposed, because I believe that's what God's about to do. God is about to do some exposing, and God's about to do some judging. Top of the list for me is the Biden crime family. Could go into a lot of detail about that. The Biden crime family. How about the Clinton crime family? You think there's things they don't want to be exposed? You think there's things that they're part of that they'd be a lot more comfortable if Joe Biden and company were president? What about Obama? Spygate, spying on the president and his campaign. What about the intelligence community? What about the Brennans and the Clappers of this world? What about the cabal that exists in the FBI? Comey, Christopher Wray, their henchmen. What about Planned Parenthood in America? Harvesting baby parts, being involved in 60 million unborn children killed since Roe v. Wade, targeting minority communities. Do you think they want to be exposed? Do you think they want to be judged? What about the global medical mafia that has its grip on the entire world? What about the big tech monopolies? You think they want their power to be challenged? What about the complicit church? And in all these that I just listed, I would encourage you to look past the names that I just said and see the evil that is behind them. See the evil that is behind Planned Parenthood. See the evil that's behind all of these. And so here's what I think is going to happen, y'all. I believe that faithful individuals are going to pray and continue praying. And I believe that God's hand is about ready to move. I want to reference just a couple of scriptures. I love that scripture from 2 Kings chapter 6. And Elisha and his servant, they were surrounded by the enemy. And his servant got up in the morning and he saw the army that had surrounded him. And he said, "Alas, master, how shall we do?" And I love this verse. Elisha said, "Fear not, for they that be with us are more than that be with them." That maybe that's how you feel right now. You might feel hopeless, but Elisha prayed and he said, "Lord, open his eyes that he may see." And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man and he saw. And behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire. Let me talk about fire just for a second, because I believe that fire is about to be unleashed. I'm sorry. I believe fire is about to be unleashed on portions of our government, and I believe that fire is about to be unleashed on portions of the church. I certainly do. And I'll tell you something about fire. When wildfire erupts, it burns all the dead wood. So I say this with fear and trepidation, because I want to get the dead wood out of my life, because I don't want to be burned up. Okay? Because I believe that exposure and I believe it judgment. Because make no mistake, ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump won this election. And this isn't really about Donald Trump. Okay? But Donald Trump won this election, and you can call me redneck, you can call me simple, you can call me primitive, you can call me Mississippi, and I'm proud of that, and Tennessee, and I'm proud of that. Call me whatever you want. But Donald Trump won this election, and the devil is trying to steal it. The media is lying to us. They are lying to us. Please remember that 2 days ago, they were telling us something that was worlds apart from the truth. And they just keep on lying and lying. The corruption, the stealing that's going on right now, I don't believe God's going to put up with it. I don't believe God's going to put up with it. I wanted to show you this. I think I'm coming in for a landing here. Whoop, it escaped me. Let me see if I can bring it up where it is. Yeah. This was on Jay Sekulo's Facebook page. Jay Sekulo's Facebook page. And it said, "Watch, I'll be appearing on Hannity at 9 o'clock Eastern on Fox News." Well, I wanted to hear what Jay had to say tonight, and he didn't appear tonight. He wasn't on the show, even though he put it on his Facebook. So what does that tell you? They're working right now. They're working right now, and a lot of this stuff is going to be battled out in court. But I want to make sure that I say this. God does not have to bend any rules. He doesn't have to disobey any laws. I believe that God Almighty is going to expose and is going to judge. He's going to use people like Jay Sekulow and others. But when it's all said and done, Jay Sekulow's not going to get the glory. He doesn't want the glory. Donald Trump is not going to get the glory, because it's going to be the wind of God that carries him over the finish line. And it's going to usher in some things that will be marvelous to behold and frightening to behold. So there you go. If you were wondering if I was crazy, I guess now you can have more information to make your decision. But I want to encourage you to be encouraged. I want to encourage you to in prayer, fight for this country and fight for what is right, and fight for evil to be exposed and evil to be judged. And with that, I will say, God bless you. God bless your family. God bless the state of Ohio, which will not entirely escape some of this judgment that we're talking about. And that's a good thing. And God bless the United States of America.
I hear the sweet sound of freedom, and I won't be